So Fox News is going to mock a guy here for writing about his concerns with his own inherited wealth. This is interesting for a variety of reasons. Let's watch and then we'll discuss.
A liberal man claiming to be part of the 1% says he is suffering from something he calls wealth anxiety. Adam Roberts detailing his struggles with being progressive and rich in a lengthy post online after finding out the extent of his family's wealth and that it came from oil and banking. So he ethically opposed these businesses, and Roberts says his problems started after he inherited about $1.2 million, making him feel alienated from his friends. He goes on to say he believes no one should be allowed to amass such wealth. Gary, what do you think of this?
I think I need to drink some tequila. Look, I work very closely with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida, 13,000 kids, 30 clubs, and we work with the parents. And these parents try to scrape dimes together to take care of their family. They don't have wealth anxiety. They have trying to gain wealth anxiety. And this, I don't even know where to go with this. When a person is given it, stop complaining about it and do something good with it.
Yeah, that's the obvious explanation here, or the obvious answer for this person's idiotic anxiety. Give it away. If you're not happy owning that money, build something good for other people. Do something. There are so many ways to give back and to help. This guy is the most spoiled brat I've ever heard of. I'm glad he's not mine.
Bruce?
You could do a clinical trial for him on Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax. Why don't we start there?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
we could just make him, you know, let it go from there.
De Blasio would love him.
He's not actually would get hit by the wealth tax because $1.2 million doesn't put you in the top percent of wealth by 1%. In fact, our estate tax kicks in at about $10 million. So what I would recommend to the liberals who feel guilty about their money, when you're in office again, change the tax code because that's the way it is now. There's step-up cost bases. There's capital gains taxed higher than income. There's a $10 million gift you can just give to your children tax-free. If you don't like it, those are the parts to address, not all this other garbage you guys are talking about that isn't going to address this issue, if that is actually what you want to do.
Okay, but that's what he's calling for. So I took the radical step of actually reading the article that they're making fun of, and man, they don't accurately portray it at all. I know, shocking. But so the dude basically, he's really thoughtful, and his ultimate conclusion is that, hey, listen, individual morality matters less than the system. So the real problem is we need to reform the system. We need to make sure that we have intelligent redistributive policies that give everybody equal opportunity and they're rational and make sense. So he's actually very thoughtful in the article, and they're just like making fun of him as if he's ridiculous because he has wealth anxiety. I'm not even sure he used that phrase. I think that they're putting that phrase on him and saying like, oh, this is basically what he's doing, is he's saying I'm anxious because of my wealth. But no, if you read the article, it's pretty reasonable. The dude is just thinking about stuff. He's like, well, hold on now. I'm against the fossil fuel industry. I'm against what the financial institutions have done and how they've rigged the process, and they're against regular people, and Wall Street got a giant bailout. And here I am, and I'm the beneficiary of my parents having been involved with these industries. And so he didn't know how to deal with that, but he felt bad about it because he's against those industries. So, but again, his ultimate conclusion at the end is, well, what I do matters less than what we collectively do to fix the system and change the policies. So a lot of what they're telling him to do at the end there, that's actually what the conclusion he comes to. So they're being a little silly in how they characterize this. I like the guy at the beginning because he says, well, you know, this guy has wealth anxiety. Well, I work with people at the Boys and Girls Club, and these are working families, and they have trying to gain wealth anxiety. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's his point. His point is, I was just lucky. I was part of the Lucky Sperm Club, and I was born into wealth. What makes me any better than those people at the Boys and Girls Club who are struggling and scraping to get by? He wants to help those people. And he wants a system that takes it away from any individual's choice and makes it so that the system recognizes collectively that everybody has this inherent worth, so there's a more reasonable starting line and a more reasonable floor for people. So he's making the same point about, what about the working people? That's what he's saying. They're so stupid, these people. And the final point I want to make about this is, okay, Fox News oftentimes berates poor people for taking welfare or using unemployment, and they imply that, like, if you use food stamps or anything like that, you're like a parasite, you're a leech. And their argument is usually that you need to work for every penny that you make. But look at their reaction on this story. Totally flip their position. Because what this guy is saying is, hey man, I was just given over $1 million because of who my parents are. I think that's kind of fucked up. And they're making fun of him for it. So what he's saying is, I didn't earn this. I was just lucky to be born with my parents being who they are. I didn't earn this, so I feel weird about it. And they're making fun of him for that, when he essentially is making the same point that they make in the context of really poor people. When they tell really poor people, you gotta work for everything you ever got ever. You shouldn't even get a free meal, no food stamps, no welfare, no unemployment, no nothing. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard. His example is a more extreme example, where it's like, I didn't work at all and I was just given over $1 million, and they're defending him and saying, you should keep that money. Keep it. It's yours. It's good that you got that money. So all of a sudden, the idea of, earn every penny you got, they only apply that to the super poor. They don't mean it for the rich. The rich, just by virtue of their existence, are special enough where they could be gifted over $1 million, and it's perfectly reasonable and rational. And if you think about it, or you're against it, or you question it, no, how ridiculous this person is, yes. So they immediately flip their position. The reality is, for poor people, you should be saying, well, there should be a reasonable floor where you can't go below it. And we give people equal opportunity, so they deserve help. This guy being concerned about, well, maybe the system's a little weird that I was just given over $1 million, that's a reasonable concern. He wants to create a system that has more equal opportunity, and he's saying, this wasn't equal. I had a head start over everybody for no reason at all. So he's thinking about the world he lives in, and he wants to fix it, and they're looking down at it and scoffing at it, and they're not even good propagandists. They're not even mildly convincing or intelligent. It's just like scoffing, reactionary garbage.